Hey guys, Mr. Gomes here, and I'm going to talk to you about the Green Revolution. So, when most people think about Revolution, they are thinking about, some awesome technology that's going to fix climate change. But that's not actually what that term means. The Green Revolution is talking about how industrialization impacted farming and changed farming. Okay, this happened especially in the 20th century. Of course, it started way earlier than that, but especially happened in the 20th century with a big emphasis, or a big change, I should say, not emphasis, in the 1940s and 60s. Mostly in the 60s, we got this green revolution happening all over the world. Okay. So let's talk about some key factors here, positive and negatives, okay, of all these key factors. And these are things that are still happening, okay? But typically when people are thinking of green revolution, they're thinking of mechanization, artificial fertilizers and pesticides, irrigation technology, monocultures, and GMOs, okay? So mechanization means we are using machines to plow the fields to harvest, okay, which is great for the farmer because you can do a lot more work quickly, and it's not as hard on the farmer. It's not as hard on the farmer's family, right? You don't need the kids to help. It's also great for the farmer economically because they don't have to hire people, or they can harvest a greater area, right? Because they can do more work in less time. So that's great for the farmer. So negative impacts is now we're using fossil fuels, right? And some people who relied on hand farm labor are now losing their jobs, okay, because of mechanization. Artificial fertilizers and pesticides. So this is great for the yield of the farm. You can ensure, or at least improve, the chances that you're going to get the yield you want to get every year. Where we've got all the nutrients that the plants are going to need to grow. With pesticides, we are killing pests, and the farmer is ensuring their financial security, making sure that there's not going to be some crazy wave of some pest that's going to come and just destroy all their crop and destroy their income. Also, we can feed more people, right? We've got mechanization. We can plant more because we can do more work. We can make sure that we're going to get good yield, and we can feed more people. So those are all positive things about artificial fertilizers and pesticides. Negative impact is with runoff of these things. The fertilizers and the pesticides, they get in the waterways and the wetlands and the streams and so forth. So what's going to happen is we're going to get eutrophication with fertilizers, right? With pesticides, where you could get things going up the food chain through biomagnification, like DDT and other things like that. So those are negative impacts. And also with pesticides, sometimes when you are trying to kill a target organism, there will be non-target organisms that are impacted as well. Okay, so that affects biodiversity and things like that. Irrigation technology. So once the irrigation technology was developed, we can irrigate plants better. We can put them on a really specific schedule. If there's drought, we don't have to be hurt as severely by the drought, because we've got this great irrigation technology that we can get, water from aquifers and different things like that. Okay. The problem with that is that a lot of fresh water is limited. Aquifers, for example, they are somewhat limited because we are using them more quickly than they are being recharged. So there is an issue of a limited resource there as well. Also with irrigation, you get potential salinization of the soil. We talked about this earlier in the year, where the water evaporates, but the ions stay in the soil. And if that process repeats itself over and over again, then you're actually ruining your soil that you need to plant things that you're farming. Okay, monoculture. So this picture here is a great example of all of these things. But monocultures is instead of having a farm where you have these vegetables and the fruit, and it's very, you got all different things going on at the same time, you've got these huge farms now, no longer like small family farms, But these industrial corporate type farms that are just growing one crop in huge tracts of land. I mean, you drive all around here in our area and you see tons of corn and tons of soy and really not much of anything else. I personally haven't seen any like plant farms besides corn and soy. So what you're getting all this monoculture, great for the farmer. They can put all the plants on the same fertilizing schedule, irrigation schedule. We can buy just the one harvest machine for corn or the one harvest machine for soy. It can ensure financial security. It can ensure our yield so we can feed more people. And those are all really good things. Those are all positive benefits of monocultures. The negative impacts of that is for biodiversity, right? Now we're using huge tracts of land that we've cleared. We just have the one type of crop, and we are artificially selecting for the crop that we like, that's beneficial for us. But then that decreases genetic diversity. It's the same thing with domesticating animals. We breed the animals to be the way that we want them to be for our benefit. We do the same thing with the plants, but then we are decreasing genetic diversity. And of course, that impacts all the organisms that depend on that plant as well. Okay. GMOs. Now, GMOs, genetically modified organisms, are different from artificial selection. This isn't just breeding. This is actually changing the DNA of the organism. Okay, so for example, a real famous GMO is when you take a gene from a bacteria that the short name for it is Bt, and you can put it in, for example, corn. And what that gene does, so you're taking a gene from a bacteria, putting it in a corn plant. So that's a genetically modified organism because you're extracting a DNA artificially from a completely different species and putting it in another. Okay, Bt corn, for example, it grows the pesticide in the corn itself, in the leaves. The leaves have the pesticide in them, so that when the pests start eating the leaves, they die before they get to the corn. Okay, so there are lots of organisms, or GMOs, or plant organisms out there with that Bt gene in them nowadays. Okay, so again, what we're doing here is we are ensuring our yield. We are making sure that we can make lots of food so that people can eat. Our population is growing, and all that good stuff. The negative impact of GMOs is, of course, there's ethical issues with that. There's a lot of concern for human health, even though there has been no widespread scientific consensus on that. So you should never put human health as a possible negative impact of GMOs in an AP exam because it will not be accepted. But there have been scientifically proven experiments where GMOs affect non-target organisms in the same way that pesticides do. Okay, so we could be harming and killing non-target organisms, affecting biodiversity. Of course, we're introducing genes into a gene pool that was not there initially, and we don't know how that will impact the biodiversity of, say, of corn or tomatoes or any plant, okay, that uses that. So that's what Green Revolution is, these 5 main areas here. Those are some of the positive impacts and some of the negative impacts of GMOs. Not just GMOs, everything else as well.